Welcome back to the channel. Have you ever wondered why the act of repentance is often associated with speaking out loud, even when no one is around to listen? Have you ever thought that the simple act of vocalizing our regrets and seeking forgiveness might be the key to unlocking a deeper layer of wisdom and blessing in our lives? Today, we explore the profound teachings of Master Miaoli on the true meaning of repentance, and how speaking loudly in this act of spiritual cleansing can transform our hearts and lives in ways we might never expect. Repentance, often misunderstood as merely a ritualistic or ceremonial act, holds a deeper significance in spiritual practice. Master Miaoli, a teacher renowned for his wisdom and compassion, often spoke of repentance not as a means of self-punishment, but as a means of purifying the heart and reconnecting with the divine nature that resides within us all. According to him, repentance is the path through which we unburden ourselves of the weight of past actions and return to our original state of clarity and purity. Master Miaoli often likened the act of repentance to cleaning a mirror. When the mirror is clouded with dust, it is difficult to see anything clearly. Similarly, when our hearts are clouded with regret, anger, or attachment, our true nature becomes obscured. Through repentance, we clear away these impurities, allowing the light of our inner wisdom to shine forth once again. It is an essential process for anyone on the spiritual path, not only to recognize one's mistakes, but also to have the courage to face them openly and fully, allowing them to be washed away with the force of sincerity and deep intention. But why is it that this act of repentance requires vocalization? Why must we speak out loud when we ask for forgiveness or express regret for our actions? The answer, according to Master Miaoli, is that the very act of speaking forces us to confront the truth of our actions. It is one thing to think about our misdeeds quietly in our minds, but it is another thing entirely to vocalize them, to hear the words leave our lips, and to face the reality of what we have done. This act of speaking makes our repentance tangible, rooted in the present moment, and connects us to the power of our own words and intentions. He once shared a powerful story of a man who, after years of living with anger and resentment toward a family member, sought Master Miaoli's guidance. The man was torn by internal conflict. He knew he had been wrong, but the weight of his pride and hurt made it difficult for him to take the first step toward healing. Master Miaoli instructed him to sit before an altar and speak his regret out loud. At first, the man was reluctant, unable to find the words. But slowly, as he began to speak, the tears flowed. The words seemed to come from somewhere deeper than his mind, resonating through his whole being. And as he spoke, something shifted. His heart softened, his pride dissolved, and she began to see his own suffering as part of the shared human experience. This moment marked a profound transformation for the man. He not only acknowledged the pain he had caused others, but also recognized the deeper pain that had been within him, blocking his ability to forgive. In that moment of vocalized repentance, he experienced a breakthrough, realizing that true healing and reconciliation could only come through the courage to speak openly about the wounds he had carried for so long. Master Miaoli would explain that when we speak our repentance aloud, we are not merely confessing our faults, we are also creating an energetic shift within ourselves. Our words carry power. They are not just sounds or vibrations, but expressions of the deep intentions of our hearts. When we speak with sincerity, the very act of articulating our feelings releases stored emotional energy, allowing us to move beyond the burden of guilt or shame. In the sacred space created by vocalized repentance, we also open the door to blessings. Master Miaoli often taught that blessings are not something to be earned, but something to be received. When we let go of our past mistakes and free ourselves from the weight of regret, we create space for divine grace to enter. Just as a garden needs to be cleared of weeds before it can bear fruit, our hearts must be cleared of negative emotions before they can receive the blessings that await us. One of the key aspects of this teaching is the understanding that repentance is not a one-time event but a continuous practice. Master Miaoli would frequently remind his students that as long as they walk this earth, they will inevitably encounter situations that challenge their hearts and minds. Therefore, it is essential to maintain an ongoing practice of repentance, an openness to reflect on one's actions, words, and intentions, and a willingness to correct course when necessary. In this way, repentance becomes a means of staying aligned with our highest self, a constant reminder to return to a place of clarity and compassion. To illustrate this continuous practice, Master Miaoli would often guide his students in a daily ritual of repentance, where they would take a few moments each day to reflect on their actions and speak their regrets aloud. It is not the depth of your mistakes that matters, he would say, but the sincerity with which you face them, and the resolve to change. The blessings of true repentance come not from the magnitude of your faults, but from your willingness to acknowledge them, and to do better in the future. He would also remind his students that while speaking aloud in repentance can be deeply healing, it is not a practice that should be done in isolation. The true power of repentance comes when it is shared with others, especially in the context of community. Master Miaoli would say, when you speak your repentance in the presence of others, it not only frees you from your past actions, but it also creates an environment in which others can feel safe to do the same. This shared vulnerability strengthens the bonds of compassion and understanding within the group. This teaching on the communal aspect of repentance emphasized the importance of both individual and collective healing. As individuals, we are responsible for our own actions, but as members of a larger community, we also have a responsibility to help others heal. By creating spaces where people can openly share their regrets and mistakes, we foster an environment where healing and growth can take place. Over time, students of Master Miaoli began to experience the profound shifts that came from this practice. They found that repentance, when done with true intention, not only freed them from the emotional weight of their past actions, but also opened up new opportunities for personal growth and transformation. By speaking their regrets aloud, they felt lighter, more open to receiving blessings, and more attuned to the needs of others. Master Miaoli's teachings on repentance also point to a deeper truth that we are all interconnected. Our actions, words, and intentions ripple outward, affecting those around us in ways we may not always see. When we engage in repentance, we are not only healing ourselves, but also contributing to the collective healing of the world. Each act of sincere repentance sends waves of positive energy into the universe, helping to create a more compassionate and harmonious world. As you reflect on the practice of repentance, consider how speaking aloud can help you clear away the accumulated weight of past actions. Through sincere vocalization, you can release stored emotions, forgive yourself, and make space for new blessings and opportunities. Let this practice become a part of your daily life, and watch as it transforms your heart, your relationships, and your experience of the world. As Master Miaoli's teachings on repentance deepened, students began to experience the profound shifts that came from engaging in this practice more fully. The power of repentance, particularly when spoken aloud, began to transform their relationships, their daily lives, and their sense of inner peace. It wasn't merely the act of expressing regret that brought about change, it was the courage to face their mistakes with sincerity, to see them clearly, and to offer them up as a means of purification. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden hue over the monastery grounds, Master Miaoli gathered his students for a group session on repentance. He shared a story of a young woman named Li, a novice who had struggled with resentment for many years toward her family. She had suffered a great deal in her youth, feeling misunderstood and abandoned by those closest to her. For years, she carried the weight of this hurt, and despite her spiritual practice, it was a burden that held her back from experiencing true peace. One day, Master Miaoli sat with Li in silence, sensing the deep pain she carried. He asked her to recount the moments of her suffering and to express, aloud, her feelings of anger and abandonment. At first, Li hesitated. The words seemed too painful to speak, but the master gently encouraged her, saying, "It is only by facing the fullness of your pain that you will be able to release it. You are not alone in your suffering. Speak the truth, and in doing so, you will reclaim your peace." Finally, with trembling hands, Li began to speak. Her voice quivered as she shared her deepest wounds, but as she spoke, something remarkable happened. With each word, the pain that had once felt insurmountable began to lose its grip on her. The act of speaking her hurt aloud didn't just bring relief, it revealed to her the underlying truth of her experience, that her suffering was not a reflection of her family's cruelty, but a reflection of her own attachment to the past. She realized that by holding on to this resentment, she had continued to carry the burden of something that no longer served her. Master Miaoli sat quietly, observing the transformation taking place. "Li, when you speak your truth with openness, you give it the space to heal," he said. "Through this act, you have already begun the process of liberation. True repentance doesn't come from self-flagellation or guilt, it comes from the willingness to let go of the chains that bind you." Li's story is one of many that exemplify the transformative power of repentance. When we speak our regrets aloud, not only do we acknowledge the pain we carry, but we also create a moment of profound clarity. By facing the truth of our actions, we can step away from the shadows of guilt and toward the light of understanding. This is the essence of Master Miaoli's teaching, that repentance is not an act of weakness but an act of strength, of courage, and of self-liberation. It is often said that speaking aloud in repentance connects us more deeply to our own truth, but it also opens us to the power of collective healing. Master Miaoli frequently emphasized that when we offer our apologies or express regret in the presence of others, we are participating in a shared process of purification. The collective energy of the community magnifies the power of repentance, creating a ripple effect that extends far beyond the individual. In a group retreat, Master Miaoli invited his students to sit in a circle and share a moment in which they had felt wronged, whether by others or by themselves. He asked them to speak their feelings openly, without fear of judgment. As one by one, each person spoke, the group collectively felt the weight of their regrets. But as each person voiced their sorrow, the air seemed to lighten, and a deep sense of release filled the room. The energy shifted from one of pain to one of mutual support, as if every spoken word had dissolved a piece of the collective burden. Master Miaoli explained, "When we hold on to our regrets in isolation, they become like heavy stones. But when we share them with others, they lose their weight. And when we listen with compassion, we create the space for the suffering to dissolve." Through this shared experience, the students began to realize that repentance is not just a personal journey, but a communal one. It is through the act of sharing, of speaking aloud in the presence of others, that we find the healing power of unity. This understanding became a cornerstone of their practice, as they began to see that their spiritual growth was not isolated from others, but intimately connected to the collective energy of the community. Master Miaoli also shared a teaching on how repentance can be a means of reconnecting with the present moment. In one memorable session, he invited his students to sit in silence for several minutes before speaking their repentance aloud. He encouraged them to focus on their breath, to feel the sensation of each inhale and exhale, and to observe any thoughts or emotions that arose. Only after this practice of mindfulness did he ask them to voice their regrets, allowing the clarity of the present moment to guide their words. By grounding themselves in the present, the students experienced how repentance can be a powerful tool for breaking free from the chains of the past. It allowed them to fully embrace their mistakes without judgment and to transform their past experiences into sources of strength and wisdom. In this way, repentance became not just an act of atonement, but a means of living more fully and authentically in the now. The master would often conclude his teachings on repentance by reminding his students of the ultimate goal, liberation. Repentance is not about erasing the past, she would say. It is about freeing yourself from its hold, so that you may live in the fullness of the present. When you speak your regrets aloud, you are not only seeking forgiveness, but you are also making space for the blessings that come with a heart unburdened by guilt and regret. This final teaching was a reminder that repentance is not an end in itself, but a beginning, a doorway that opens us to deeper wisdom, greater compassion, and the boundless potential of the present moment. When we speak our regrets with sincerity, we free ourselves from the past, making room for the blessings of the future. As you reflect on the practice of repentance, consider how speaking aloud can help you release old wounds, heal from past regrets, and move forward in the light of clarity and wisdom. Allow this practice to become an integral part of your life, and watch as it transforms your relationships, your heart, and your experience of the world. Thank you for watching this video.